What if you found a new way of watching your favourite show? The plot and the characters are the same, but the meaning is completely different. And what if the way you thought about movies was never the same again? Are you willing to take that chance? Welcome to Abstract Nonsense, the Fan Theories and Alternate Readings podcast. My name is Joe Lewis, and I'm joined by Anthony Bull. How are you, Anthony?
I'm good, Joe. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well, because today we're talking about something that is a pretty hot topic.
Yeah?
It's pretty much always hot topic, though. It's Star Wars.
Oh.
Before we launch into talking about theories, let's just quickly talk about the theme song of Star Wars. Is it the most iconic theme song of all time, Anthony?
That is without a doubt correct. It is. Oh, come on. Like, if you played this to 100 people, 1,000 people from all over the world, and you say, what is this? They'd say, Star Wars, or I don't know what you just said because I don't speak your language.
See, I would agree with you that seems fairly accurate. It is fairly iconic. It's great music. It's one of the things that makes Star Wars, apart from the sound effects, the visuals, and the characters, and the storylines. You know, it is one of the contributing factors there. So if you love Star Wars, undoubtedly you love this theme song.
Yeah, it's John Williams. John Williams, man. He knows where it's at.
Not to be confused with R.M. Williams, who is an Australian clothing designer for country people.
Could you imagine if he tried to do it?
I imagine there would be a lot of
sheeps,
horse-styled motifs,
a lot of leather, a lot of cows,
a lot of
cowbells everywhere.
Cowbells. Let's launch in and talk about our first big theory for today, and it is the Empire are good guys.
Oh, yes.
So this is something that I see a lot. I don't know who originally came up with this theory. I know a version of it is presented in Clerks by Kevin Smith's movie Clerks, where they talk about it being a travesty that the Death Star is blown up in Return of the Jedi. But we're talking more specifically about A New Hope. And the theory states that the Empire are the good guys, which means that the bad guys are the rebels. And as you were saying before the podcast began, there is an interpretation of Star Wars in which Luke is a terrorist.
Yeah, he is, by any classical definition, a terrorist.
Well, what's the classical definition of a terrorist?
I believe a terrorist would be an organized group of people or a person belonging to an organized group who commit acts of violence or destruction against property or persons for the means of achieving political change.
Well, I guess
it's activist, actually. So terrorist might be more in order to invoke fear.
Yeah.
So it's potentially create change. So maybe that's where they split the difference. But again, that's all perspective. From the rebels' point of view, they're just activists because they're not trying to invoke fear. But from the people who are actually like mothers and wives and friends of the people who worked on the Death Star, who work for the Empire, these rebels are coming in to kill them, right? For what reason? Oh, it's because they want to invoke fear. They want to just hurt us here in the Federation. It's going to create a lot of fear that, oh no, there could be, rebels amongst us. Oh no, so scary. They would be called terrorists by the galactic media.
The galactic bias media.
Yeah.
But,
GSM.
No, you are right. Terrorism is a matter of perspective in a lot of cases. And I think the rebels could definitely be classified as terrorists depending on your own perspective and how you sit there.
It's actually really interesting too, because if you consider that the Death Star, it blows up Alderaan, which is a pretty heinous act, but they would still be framed by the people in the Empire that was a necessary act, whilst what the rebels do is just straight up terrorism. And you can contrast this with the attack of Pearl Harbor, maybe September 11. They're all considered terrorist acts. Maybe not Pearl Harbor, but it's considered
that's
kind
an act of war.
It's an act of war. But the dropping of the nuclear bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, which did way more devastation.
Necessary evil.
They were necessary evils. We had to stop the Japanese.
What about the invasion of a certain Middle Eastern country? Could that be considered a necessary evil?
The answer to that question is, which one?
Yeah.
Cheers.
So, yeah, definitely the destruction of Alderaan is comparable to the US invasion of any Middle Eastern country.
Syria.
There's a lot of them.
Iraq.
Now. Yeah, Afghanistan. Who cares?
Yeah.
One of them. Pick
one. Pick one. Yeah.
The other side of this theory is that Star Wars actually exists within the greater Star Wars universe and is rebel propaganda of what actually happened.
So explain that to me.
Okay, so imagine you live in the Star War universe.
Yeah.
So you live on planet Star in the universe war. You go to the movies because you like to be entertained. You go down to your movie theater.
You go for a walk down to the movie theater.
You pay the attendant. You're like, I'll have a packet of popcorn, please, and a $3.50 Choc Top because that's straight up value. And you get one of those and you go and sit in your cinema. You eat your Choc Top. You eat your popcorn. You're like forgetting about all the horrible things that are happening on your planet because you live on some bumfuck system in the middle of nowhere.
Yep, I can see that. Yep. Bumfuckistan. Is it?
Your aunt and uncle are moisture farmers and that nobody cares about, and you just want to watch a movie, and you don't care if they get turned into horrible burnt skeletons. You're just here to watch a movie, and the movie starts, and it's like, oh wow, this is interesting. It's about people flying around in space and doing all these things, and doing all these heroic things, but the bad guy, that's the Empire. Oh, I didn't realize that the Empire was so bad. They built my roads.
They did.
We all know that roads are crucial to a system of sustainable government.
It is, right? Like I could rebel against the Empire, but I do like roads.
Especially space roads.
Space roads are important for my space flying glider.
Space roads are extremely convenient. But yeah, I'm just saying that Star Wars could exist within that world as propaganda. The good guys are good and the bad guys are nondescript evil. Yeah, sure, they're doing bad things or whatever, but also their motivations aren't necessarily that evil. Sure, that the center of the Empire, the Emperor himself and Darth Vader and Grand Moff Merkin and all those guys.
What? Grand Moff Merkin? Hey?
Yeah, Grand Moff Merkin. He's one of the guys.
He's wearing a Merkin.
He's got a little Merkin hat on his head.
That's not what a Merkin is, mate.
I know what a Merkin is.
Good, I'm glad you know.
If you don't know, that's a Google search for later.
Maybe advise them not to Google picture search it.
Well, you can if you want. Depends what you're into.
You're free. You can do whatever you want. Go for it, kiddies. Don't do it.
Oh, kids shouldn't be listening to this podcast anyway.
That's true. But it's got the E symbol on iTunes.
Okay, cool. Let's get back to what we're actually talking about here. But they're those guys. And sure, they are like, oh, we want power, blah, blah, blah. But are the things they're doing for the universe actually good? They're providing space roads, as we talked about. They probably provide some sort of plumbing system. They provide trade networks. Are they actually good?
About whether something's morally virtuous versus what's necessary and important for your, I guess, sustainability.
Why do the rebels want control? Is that something that's ever really discussed about? Is it just because the Sith are in control of the Empire?
Well, the Sith, right?
They're an opposing religion, is that it?
The Sith and the Jedi are the ultimate example of propaganda encapsulated in people. The Jedi are all good, can do no wrong, and the Sith are just pure evil, motivated by lust and power. Why? I don't understand. What has the Empire done to you? Like, it would be better if there was some sort of backstory that told us why the Empire was just so gosh darn evil to everybody. And I don't mean like small minority groups of people on the fringes that no one cares about, because that's what happens in the regular world. You'll have countries that will invade other countries. No one cares. Who cares? Libya is a great example of that. All right, you let Libya fall. America's like, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Just leave it. It's fine. All right? But we need to do that in order to maintain the sustainability and prosper of the American system, I guess. It's a neoconservative view, right?
Yeah,
so
sure.
Maybe it is some sort of propaganda. Like, it could be ISIS. It could be like an ISIS film, except it's set in space. So space ISIS. I like that theory.
Yeah, well, I think I've heard that before, that the rebel is space ISIS. It's that is an interesting one to mull over, dear listener, if you want to go and have a bit of a mentally chew on that. I believe you've got another theory there for us, Anthony, and this one it has to do with the names and meanings of people's names.
So it's interesting
as meanings are.
So I think some of it is that the names and the meanings, they sort of correlate with some sort of religious creation story. You've got stuff like Leia, which is Hawaiian for child of heaven, or that's not necessarily what Leia means in the film, but that's
sure.
Leia is Hawaiian for child of heaven. Luke was a disciple of Jesus, and Skywalker means to walk in the sky, literally. So it's disciple of Jesus walking in the sky like an angel. You've got Han, which in Korean means to be defeated. or Han denotes a collective feeling of oppression and isolation in the face of insurmountable odds.
So all of these obviously could have been chosen by a screenwriter to give a little bit of extra oomph to the story, or they could be part of a greater conspiracy in that Star Wars is actually a fantasized version of a creation story. Now, I believe that you know this, Anthony, but dear listener might not be so familiar with the monomyth.
Yes.
Are you familiar with the monomyth?
I am familiar with the monomyth, but please just go into the monomyth.
Correct
people
answer.
like to hear that, yes.
Correct answer.
That is the right answer. That is the only answer.
That is the only answer. The monomyth is, of course, something that was come up with by a very smart old guy called Joseph Campbell. Now, he was a guy who read a lot of books, read a lot of myths, Greek classical myths, all the types of myths all over the world, compiled them in a great big book called Hero of a Thousand Faces, which details his theory that every story in the world, the way of telling stories basically boils down to a certain number of archetypes and plot points. And now his theory was kind of a little bit nebulous in that it could be in whatever order, but it was later kind of refined by a bunch of different people, including Christopher Vogler and a couple of other guys.
Vogler, of course.
Vogler's a screenwriting guy, but there was a couple other guys as well that were involved in other different mediums. They eventually boiled it down. Well, that kind of happened a little bit after. Sorry, I got a little bit lost there. A little bit after an old guy with a bit of a beard named George Lucas. Okay, so he took Hero of a Thousand Faces and put it into the traditional, what we call the hero's journey. Okay, so these are our traditional points, and he stole a lot of his points and a lot of his ideas from some other people like Akira Kurosawa, and there were a bunch of other guys that were doing it as well. But he put it in this really boiled down and condensed way of the monomyth. So the hero's journey, the monomyth, this story, it's like you can see similar plot points and ideas in, the Christianity origin story, the birth of Jesus, the rise of him as a hero. Well, the Jesus origin story.
Yeah.
It sort of is the origin story.
I guess it
if
is
you
kind
of do some mental gymnastics.
You have to.
Not everything needs to be chronological to be an origin story, right?
That's true.
Well, it kind of does, but
it's sort of
I'm just.
It's the origin of Christianity breaking away from Judaism.
Yeah. In that way, it's right. All of these myths, all different countries, they put it together. Now, what if Star Wars is a fantasized version of a creation story? George Lucas is giving us his own mythology for how he thinks the world was made.
He's saying interesting. One more name, right? Tarkin. Right, this is an English family name, apparently, but in Kabbalah, it has a different meaning. It means you are not inclined to merge your opinions or viewpoints with others, or to accept compromise, or to work in a subservient position against your will. Now, Kabbalah is what?
Kabbalah is a form of Jewish mysticism, I believe.
So what if it's the origin and creation story of Christianity?
That could be. A lot of people have said that.
And Tarkin is the Pharisees, not willing to submit to Jesus.
Christianity is one of these ones that fits not entirely concretely into the hero's journey, but a lot of the themes come from that because it's, a thing that's interesting with storytelling is that nothing under the sun is new, right? The way that you learn to tell stories comes from the stories that you learned as a child.
Yep.
And Western society, whether you like it or not, is based heavily on Christianity. There's a lot of Christian values in Western society. And, this is a story that everyone knows either consciously or subconsciously. You know that general story and that general Jesus arc. So the way that flows is going to craft and influence the way that you tell stories and learn stories and hear stories, whether you like it or not. And so Star Wars has often been compared to, the Jesus story. So has movies like The Matrix, which is more obvious parallels.
Yeah.
But it's the same general hero's journey.
That makes sense. Like it's a origin, it's a creation story based on the monomyth.
Yeah.
That actually makes sense, And Vader, it's not technically true.
Okay.
Because I know people will say, hey, no, Vader is actually, means, what is it? It was supposed to be like Darth Invader, is what it's supposed to be. But Vader, the idea is that it's about father means father. And of course, the father of all creation.
Sure.
And the son being Luke Skywalker. So Luke being Jesus, basically.
One of the great things about Star Wars is that father-son conflict. And I think there's a lot of, there's a lot in that throughout our past storytellings. The father-son is a powerful dynamic, as is the mother and son, because these are our first relationships.
Yeah.
Or mother and daughter and father and daughter, whichever way that you are, but between child and parent. This is the first relationship you have as a human being. So, naturally that is a more powerful storyline. Anyway, let's move on to another theory we've got here. And I believe this one was sent in to us, Anthony, by somebody named Jeremiah on Twitter. They sent it to you there on Twitter.
Cool.
And Jeremiah says, Why is there a lack of women in Star Wars?
Ah, yes.
And this is more of a question than a theory, Jeremiah. I think you should, learn the difference between the two. I'm just joking.
That's fine, mate.
You're a good guy.
It's a fair question to ask. Why are there no women in Star Wars except for two at the start?
A New Hope.
In A New Hope. And I think the only answer for most of it is that most of those people are soldiers. And so that's usually going to be predominantly a male role, just to start off with. I got to imagine at least the Empire made it a predominantly male role. The First Order kind of screwed things up in the new movies, but we're not talking about that.
We're talking about A New Hope.
There's a self-sustained canon in A New Hope. So the Empire only had male soldiers. For all we know, they still go by that whole clone thing, so they're still kind of descended from clones. But I don't know if that's still true. I'm not a Star Wars expert.
What we're saying here is not that women can't be involved in war.
They're generally not.
Well, if they are involved in war, they're generally less likely to be involved in frontline position.
Besides, look, it was a long time ago. All right, so they're not with the times.
Yeah, it's a long, long time ago.
It's a long time ago,
far,
right?
far away. Different cultures.
Just respect it. Jeez.
Respect the culture. Don't appropriate it.
Actually, that's interesting.
What?
Cultural appropriation of Star Wars. Are we appropriating Star Wars culture, even though it was an ancient culture from long ago?
Well, possibly.
We probably are.
We're probably appropriating it.
Ugh.
Stop appropriating Star Wars.
We should be ashamed of ourselves.
Yeah, kid. Take your red lightsaber.
Take your lightsaber and lash yourself with it.
That's a religious
That is a religious symbol.
It is.
It is actually. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's an interesting one. I'm sure there's a bunch of different answers for that, which brings us to our meatiest theory that we have here, and it's the inevitability of Luke's journey. Okay, so this is yours.
Yeah.
One of yours, Anthony. I've just read it out. I wrote it down before we started the show. Luke was supposed to be going to the academy.
Yes.
Okay, so when is that established? He's supposed to be going to this academy.
He said that it's right at the start when he's talking to Uncle Owen and Aunt Peru. I think it's Aunt Peru. I used to call it Aunt-a-roo.
Aunt-a-roo.
Yeah.
It's just like a hopping.
Yeah, exactly. Like
follower,
a kangaroo, like auntie. So he says to, Uncle Owen wants him to hang around and help him, with the harvest.
Yep.
And he says, no, but I was going to go to the academy this year.
Yep.
And he says, oh, I need you for another cycle, or I need it for blah, blah, blah. And he said, oh, that's another 12 months. Oh, I want to get off this rock. He wants to go to the academy. The only academy that could exist is going to be owned by the Empire, for sure.
Okay, and you're saying that the academy is some kind of stormtrooper building facility?
Well, yeah, it'd be like going, some sort of stormtrooper or defense type of facility. So I think that that's where he went to. He wanted to probably be, I don't know, a stormtrooper, anything, because stormtroopers probably go off-world, they have a lot of adventure, they do manly things. It's what a boy maybe wants to do, okay?
They wrestle in the mud.
They wrestle in the mud,
they, jump on crocodiles, they climb trees. They wear cork hats. They're all the icons of manliness.
And there's no two sons. So, he doesn't have to worry about having two sons anymore, so that's all right.
Yeah.
There'll just be one son, or maybe no sons.
He'll never have to look melancholically at the two sons ever again.
He never will. But as we know from Star Wars, from when he meets Leia, he says, aren't you a little short to be a stormtrooper? Which probably means that there's probably height restrictions to be a stormtrooper. So there's a high chance that he wouldn't have even made it in the academy. But if he wants to have adventure and he wants to have excitement in his life, and he can't really do it in the academy, the only other way he could have done it is become a trader. And I don't mean like a trader to the Empire, I mean like a actual trader of goods, like a Han Solo role. So chances are, he would have met Han Solo and worked with him, or maybe even worked with Jabba the Hutt. All right, maybe he would have worked with him in order to go off-world and, go on an adventure. For all we know, he might have ended up shooting Han.
Well, so you're saying...
I mean, that one's a bit far, but I'm just saying that he was going to become a stormtrooper. He can't become a stormtrooper because he's too short, so his only other real role is either, I guess maybe he'd be like a pilot or an officer, but I don't think he lacks the education to be an officer.
Yeah.
Because he's off in the bloody middle of the desert with no schooling.
Yeah.
Right? So chances are he'd just become a pilot or a ship hand or as a trader.
Okay.
In the city. So that would be his future role. And Han Solo is a trader as well. So chances are they would have met regardless of this happening. So maybe there's some destiny there.
If they would have met regardless, but he definitely would have been on, and you think that he definitely would have been on another path that would have brought him to a similar position.
Yes.
If not the same position.
Yeah.
I don't know if that path would have led him to Jedi.
It could have.
How? Well, so Luke goes to the academy. He's rejected because he's too short to be a stormtrooper. He's not military enough, but he has some training.
Yeah.
He's disaffected. He's wandering around. He's like, I can't go back to the moisture farm because I've pissed off Uncle Lars and Aunt Peru, so I can't go back there. But what can I do now? Well, I guess I can go and smuggle some stuff.
Or become like a trader. And then...
A traitor or a
trader?
Trader.
DER. DER, because he's not necessarily going to be a smuggler. A trader is still a thing, though.
Yes.
So maybe he gets on a ship. Now, we're assuming that R2-D2 and C-3PO do not get sent out. All the other things still remain the same.
Why wouldn't they get sent out?
They get sent out. Maybe they get sent out. They go look for Obi-Wan Kenobi. But they probably wouldn't find Obi-Wan Kenobi because there's no one to buy the droid.
Yeah.
So, or if they found with Obi-Wan Kenobi, they'd say erase that memory because stuff him, right? So the Alderaan still gets destroyed. Okay, maybe he goes off and he goes flying, and he's going to go on some space trip. And oh no, he's gone into a meteor field. What's this? So scary.
Who's in a meteor field?
Because he's going on a trader vessel. Right?
Who?
Luke.
Okay.
Right. So it's a meteor field. Maybe he hits a meteor and he ends up having to they have to crash on a planet somewhere. Turns out the planet's Dagobah.
Okay.
Right. That's where Yoda is, correct?
Yeah.
And there you go. He meets Yoda, and then he says, the Force is stronger than you. And they say, what is this Force? Force is bullshit. I don't believe in that. And then Yoda lifts up parts of the ship, and he says, do you believe it now? And he says, train me to be like that. And then, boom, done. Although I don't know how he meets Darth Vader. You got to figure that one out.
Oh, well, I have to figure that one out.
I'm sorry. I've just got him to Yoda. I've got him to Yoda. That one makes sense, all right?
Well, getting to Yoda is the inevitability of his journey, right? Because that doesn't happen till Empire Strikes Back. Mm-hmm. So that is, the eventual his position.
That's his point. That's what he wants to do. Yeah.
So the idea of that theory is this inevitable destiny of Luke in his A New Hope,
and it fits the monomyth or the Greek basis for the monomyth, which is that you can't escape your destiny. Just like the most famous of all, probably Oedipus Rex.
One other quick theory that I had was the title A New Hope. What if that doesn't refer to Luke? What if that actually refers to the Death Star? Okay, this is a new hope for rule and order for the Imperial forces. This is their new hope to dash those terrorists, like we were talking before. This is a bit of a tie-in theory, and create order and cohesion among the Empire.
That actually makes sense, because you couldn't call it, they call it the Death Star, which is a bit of a weird name.
Yeah,
right?
If you
maybe that's not the official name. Maybe that's like the classified slang name that CIA people give to weird projects they'll use.
Yeah.
Are never supposed to see the light of day, so they'll call them Project Blacklight or something like that. It's really, it's pretty full on and pretty badass name, but if the public ever saw the name, they'd go, what the fuck? I don't want no Project Death Star. No. It's Project New Hope.
Yeah.
It's a new hope for the Galactic Empire. We'll have our space stations. It'll be perfect. And then you know what? They probably sell it as having research and scientific facilities and medical facilities all there, state-of-the-art scientist facilities. And but reality, they want the scientists there they'll do research on medical and science, but they really want them to make the death beam a lot stronger and a lot better. Yeah. Okay. But it's okay, because it's all right. It's a new hope for humanity.
A new hope. It's the new name of the Death Star. All right, and that brings us to my favourite segment of the show, and that's called All in His Head. And it's the section of the show where we come up with ideas and ways that all of this could be in somebody's head, because, people are going to try and do that anyway.
Yep.
So we may as well help you out.
It's the go-to one, because it's usually very easy, because it relies on the least amount of evidence.
Yeah,
it's just a fact, and that's why we don't do go all in his head theories unless it's really, really something unless it's a solid in your head theory, like Inception. If we ever did Inception, I feel like we'd have to do the reverse of that and say how it's not in his head, because otherwise that's just reading into the movie, the literal meaning.
That's very funny. So the one I had for this one, right? Okay, Yoda.
Okay,
has been lost in the stars. He's been separated from his Jedi brethren. He's alone.
Yeah.
He lives in a swamp with swamp monsters. He doesn't have any chocolate bars.
Yeah.
He loves eating the energy bars or whatever he finds on the X-Wing. He loves them, doesn't have any of them. He's a lonely, sad man. He's going a bit crazy. And all he has time to do is sit around and do force projections of things. So do theoretical versions of ways that everything could be changed and saved. What if?
Yeah.
The entire Star Wars is a force projection inside Yoda's head to imagine a way that they could get away from this galactic empire and go back into the light of a galactic republic or whatever they had before, which is basically the same, but somehow better.
It sounds good, but I'm going to modify that a little bit. What if instead it's actually Ben Kenobi, the raving words, mad words of Ben Kenobi, who everyone says is mad.
It's his fantasy about how he'll go off with a young boy and two metal men.
Well, he's just like, he talks about how he was a Jedi. We used to pull things with our mind, and we'd bring him over here and we'd fight with these laser swords, and he'd bring out like this spatula handle or something, and just be like, we used to fight, and this used to be a laser sword, and he'd have this like fantasy, like, oh, one day I'll be training, and oh, they have this big Death Star that will blow up planets, and like, boom. And he's crazy, right? No one should believe him. That's why they say you don't want to hang out with Ben Kenobi. Because he's crazy. Yeah. Because he literally is crazy, and he's just imagining this bullshit Jedi Star Wars universe that doesn't really exist, okay? None of that exists. It's just a regular world, but with spaceships. I think that one works. That kind of fits the canon as well. You should have listened to Uncle Owen, is all I'm saying.
When Luke goes home and his family are burnt, the Empire didn't do that.
That was Ben Kenobi. Didn't I tell you the Empire were evil? And he's got like a can of like petrol.
The other, I guess the obvious all in his head is when either there's 2 points where Luke could start imagining things in his head. Yep. Either when he gets his head hit by the sand troopers, when everything starts to turn fantastical, or when he dies, the dying point of the hero's journey, the midpoint, in the garbage compactor with the garbage monster.
Yeah, that could happen. Both of those. I think the one with the... I think Ben Kenobi's solid. I think your Yoda one's solid too.
Sure. It's all, why not?
Why not, eh?
Why can't it be all in his head?
It could be.
All right, that's all our theories for today on Star Wars, but we're going to be back with something else next week. We are Abstract Nonsense, so you can follow us on any of our social medias. We're on Facebook and Twitter and all of that. But the best way to help us out is to go to iTunes and give us a rating. Give us a rating. Do you think we're good or not? You choose. The power is in your hands to decide. Give us a rating over there. The other thing that you can do is subscribe, and you'll get your podcasts every week. We won't even have to remind you. Just boop,
bop, it'll be delivered. Just go to the podcast app that you have, or download one onto your phone if you're an Android user, and just look up Abstract Nonsense. Subscribe. That's all we got this week. We're all Star Wars'd out.
The barrel's empty.
Yeah.
If you have any other Star Wars ones, you can contact us, and we'll probably revisit this one at some point. So
we'll probably be made to revisit it by someone.
Well, we've only done A New Hope.
Yeah, that's true.
We've got 6 other movies, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Do we count the prequels, or do we count them as one?
I guess the prequels are one, really.
Yeah, because I don't want to spend too much time on it, but it's like we could do it, because whatever.
Whatever. You just let us know. Let us know your theories.
I just don't really want to rewatch the prequels. I just don't want to do that. I can watch the other ones, it's fine, but I don't really want to watch the prequels. They're kind of really shit.
Yeah, nobody likes the prequels. Yeah. Oh, well, some people do.
Yeah. They're babies.
People liked Hitler as well, so...
That's true. Some people did like Hitler. So, there's always exceptions to the rule.
That's everything. My name's Joe Lewis.
And I'm Anthony Bull.
Have a great week and stay abstract.